11th Discourse. The Miracle is Your Awakening. Here are a couple of talks that we gave in the fall of 1985 that speak from our heart and from the truth of us. We send them with all our love to our brothers on the West Coast, also to Brother Ken W., to Brother Tara. We know of what you are doing and bless you. Thank you. We have a new brother. He comes to class. He reads A Course in Miracles. The words are on the printed page, and to everyone who reads them, they convey or communicate a meaning that he has about himself. When he reads in consciousness the thought that appears, it is really initiating from his own consciousness. This is the whole basis of A Course in Miracles. In a very real sense, people who study A Course in Miracles are making up A Course in Miracles. They also make up the authorship and the delineation of where they want to add to it, subtract from it and configure it in their own memory patterns. And this is paradoxically exactly what A Course in Miracles says that you do. A Course in Miracles is a mind-training endeavor to bring about a shift in your individual sense of reality, period. We understand full well that when you read A Course in Miracles, you're unable, obviously because you are here and you have the necessity to read it, to understand it. If I say to you that there are no requirements that you understand it, but only that you become it, it is very difficult for you. Inevitably, the scribes or the interpreters of A Course in Miracles delineate it within their own limited framework of consciousness. They cannot do otherwise. You may take all of the so-called economical ideas that are contained in A Course in Miracles and prove to yourself and to perhaps the culture as a whole that there's a great many similarities between what A Course in Miracles says and what is ultimately said by all divine scripture and by all occult recognition or by all physiological or philosophical discernment. What about it? The limitation is your inability to think and conceive in a singular manner, so that you would recognize that anything that you look at, you transcribe to wholeness if you are conceiving it as whole. Example, this candle is absolutely divine, perfect, contains the whole universe, or it is nothing. Your conception of the candle, as separate from the basket, is what is making you retain a sense of limitation. Somebody says to you, I don't want to study A Course in Miracles because it comes from the Christian historic vernacular. What the hell does that mean? All that means is that the individual in his own consciousness has constructed outside of him an idea about what Christianity is. It has no reality because there is finally nothing historically significant about explicit occurrences. They have no unity. If I say to them, well, what do you mean by that? Obviously, what he has done is question the source. He has evolved in his own karma or consciousness a definition of what Christianity is. And obviously he is not correct. He's in a state of judgment in limited conception. If I say to you, well, what do you mean by that? He will say, well, I'm making a comparison between Billy Graham, Pope John II, Joan of Arc, John of the Cross, the Crusades, Judas, esoteric Christianity in regard to New Jerusalem. What about it? What is that going to get you if you have constructed an idea about Christ or about God in your own limited state? It is impossible to do. The whole basis of A Course in Miracles is to teach non-judgment. Inevitably, if you have constructed yourself in the past, you are in a state of judgment of your relationship with your own thoughts. As Jesus would teach it in the Course, you literally sort out thoughts in your own mind and then project them out from you in order to ascertain the validity based on your own misconception of yourself. If I say to you, as Jesus would teach in the Course, an idea never leaves its source. You are all ideas. What about them? How do you feel about your ideas today? As you look out around you, how do you feel about your constructs? Whose constructs in conception are they if they are not yours? This is the whole basis of A Course in Miracles. If you deem something to be outside of you that is beyond your control or was not perpetrated through a conscious thought or conception of yours, you are doomed to defend yourself from it, or to interpret it, or to consider it to be separate from you. And of course it is not so. The definition provided in all esoteric conglomerations of the awakening process teach non-judgment, will teach the Beatitudes, will teach the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5-7, will teach the first 15 lessons of the workbook of A Course in Miracles. The Master Awakened Consciousness, Dafri John, teaches A Course in Miracles, of course. There would be no possibility of you coming into an awakening posture in your own consciousness and not teach what I'm saying to you. But remember, the process of coming to that is a process of expanding your state of consciousness, or literal transformative occurrence. And this is what's denied religiously and scientifically in the limited state. Here, listen, I'm going to read you just one thing. This is in Dafri John's new book from the Dawn Horse Press. It is an ancient definition of what finally, or one of the definitions of what an awakened Christ or an avatar or a master or an enlightened consciousness is. Very simply, a Vera, a realized adept, a divine man. By affirming the essential worth of the forbidden, he causes the forbidden to lose its power to pollute, to degrade, and to bind. That's exactly a definition of forgiveness. He does not give the power of his own projections dominion over himself. He doesn't judge it. The process of coming to non-judgment is a transformative occurrence. If I sit here in front of you and through A Course in Miracles look at you and say, you are a divine living Son of God, and in consciousness the only living Son of God, or the only manifestation of consciousness in the entire universe, and perfect unto yourself, you cannot accept that from me, yet I assure you that it is true. You are not the sum of the ideas about yourself, because the ideas about yourself are not true. Remember that you have made history to conform to your own limitations. The history of man is not objective. It is subjective because history is only man's idea about himself, and it is rewritten constantly. To give a sense of objective validity to history, doesn't really make any sense. All you're doing is verifying your own limited state of consciousness through the perpetration of an apparent memory or apparent past. A Course in Miracles, the process of transformation, teaches you to become indiscriminate in the manner in which you think. Is this a process? You bet your boots. What you have read up to this moment in A Course in Miracles and the manner in which you will read A Course in Miracles tonight will be entirely different. Remember that because of the nature of the consciousness that perpetrated A Course in Miracles, the insinuation of the energy, the whole of A Course in Miracles is contained in a great many individual aphorisms in the book. If you want to spend a whole evening thinking about one sentence in A Course in Miracles rather than trying to assemble it in your own limitation, consider a single sentence like, communication must be unlimited in order to have meaning. Do you understand what I said? There's no communication going on Earth. Moment by moment, together we have a moment of total communication, as we did just at that moment. We shared a common purpose. Think about that. Once more, communication must be unlimited in order to have meaning. Limited communication is always a denial of love, because love may best be defined as unlimited communication. If I dissect you in my consciousness or give you attributes or qualities in any regard in my limited conception of you, I have condemned you through my inability to realize my own wholeness. Holy mackerel, how simple can I get? That's exactly what the sentence says. Here's a beauty. Judgment is not an attribute of God. That's all you have to know to wake up. Isn't that incredible? What I just said. Judgment is not an attribute of God. And you say, oh, wait a minute. He judges whether I'm doing this or I'm doing that. This is coming or that is going, or it's big or round or fat. No, no, no. What would truth judge? Untruth? How? How would there be untruth? Look at it. You take that sentence and think about that for the rest of the day. That will wake you right up. Why? You've got a total non-judgmental God. But what does he require of you? Confirmation to his thought. What is his thought? Your thought in truth. How did you conceive of God without making him real? By what method are you espousing to the possibility of a truth or a unity and subsequently denying it? Of course, God doesn't judge. In this particular section of the galaxy, a master computer was dropped off about 6,500 years ago that expresses in total the unity and singleness of purpose of the universe. As the maturation of the species known as Homo sapiens of man matures, the energy flowed direct from his computer, which is totally unequivocating and uncompromising, to the inevitable occurrence of the transformation. That's another way of expressing it. Express it any way you want it. There are no idle thoughts. All thinking produces forms at some level. Now you've got a bad problem. You really think that in privacy you can think about something that is not known to the entire universe. You can't. Why? You are the entire universe. There's no thought outside of you. If you are constructing this in your own consciousness, and I assure you that you are, how do you subtract some ideas or thoughts that you have from others? You can't do it. It's impossible. How simple it becomes for you if you want to look at it that way. As Jesus would say to you, you are the Savior of the earth and the only Son of God. Why would that be true reasonably? Because you have constructed the earth in your consciousness. It has no reality except that you have defined it as real. I'm letting you escape from it. Don't you see what I've given you? The power to what? To revision, to reform, to recognize, to transform. It is not outside of you. It is you. I've given you what? Freedom. Do you want to take it, or do you want to keep pretending that there's something that's going to affect you, neglecting to remember that you are the cause of this? This is the whole basis of what I know to be true. How simple it becomes. How very provincial of you to acknowledge your own Christship if you are willing to assume responsibility for your own thought constructions. Inevitably, you deny a portion of you. Why? Because you are in a limited state of consciousness. It is impossible for you to order your thoughts or conceive of a yesterday or tomorrow or possible actions without eventually feeling guilty about it. You cannot do it because you are in a state of rejection of something. You are making decisions as though somehow you can bring about an effect, and you can't. All effect has already been perpetrated, and it is perpetrated by your individual thought at the moment you think it. How the heck are you going to teach this? The basis of your dilemma in spiritual search is your inability to see that there could never be finally such a thing as potential. There is no such thing in consciousness or in the universe or in truth that is not now active but can be activated in the future. What a strange notion. It appears to be that way, and obviously I'm teaching you in A Course in Miracles that it is possible for you to activate your own karma potential, but I assure you that all the history of the schism is contained in a single flash, and that you continue to reconstruct it in your own mind. So if you choose to do that, you are in a constant state of denial of your own thoughts. This is A Course in Miracles. The idea that the earth is here except in your own memory, and your memory is absurd. Obviously, the schism is your memory. You are dreaming. This is your dream. You fell asleep, remember? You fell asleep. Everything that has been constructed in the total state of consciousness is nothing but your own configuration in your dream. You have forgotten that you are the cause of this. How can this be taught to you? How can I teach an illusion? I can't. But I can show you that if I read to you a particular sentence, that you can look at it, and as your own frame of reference matures, through your own individual transformation, physically, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, you will see in your apparent limited thought a wholeness or a structure of wholeness. Let's try another one. Some of these are very difficult. You must choose between total freedom and total bondage, for there are no alternatives but these, which is a simple way of saying you are either bound totally or here forever, or you are in heaven or you are free. There's no compromise, there's nothing in between. What a lovely thought. It is true, just as you fear that to acknowledge him is to deny all that you think you know, but what you think you know was never true. All of you individually in your own consciousness must come to know that the earth is not real. There is and must be a way that this can come about, but it is up to you. The experiences and the change of mind that are going on in you and in the group of full endeavor are extraordinary. You are being made new on a moment-by-moment basis. It is a very lovely experience. It is a process of subtracting the limited self, of course. Is it a process of stilling the body's brain? Yes. Transformative occurrences is not talking about the transformative occurrence. You cannot literally have an experience. You can only be an experience. My goodness. Definitions of experience, whether ecstatic or fearful, have no validity at all because they communicate nothing. They only communicate a limited idea or a separate objective observation of the occurrence, and have always involved judgment. It is a strange notion that Brother Sharon presented to Brother Glorious yesterday when she said, "Isn't it true that there are some real good addictions along with bad addictions?" As though somehow she could tell the difference. The whole dilemma of being on earth is obviously the discernment that some addictions would be better than others, when fundamentally the addiction to self or the self-consciousness or the judgment that there are degrees of an addiction are what holds you in bondage, the assertion of the self. It is a lovely notion, but I assure you, for everyone that you can find that will define one addiction as being bad and another good, I can present you with somebody who has what? Defined the most incredible addiction that you could conceive of and reject as being simply divine. Do you see? It's obviously true. I knew a man that had the divine addiction of molesting 3-year-olds. Is that more or less divine than something who serves true purpose, who helps the poor? It has nothing to do at all with that. The expression of the selfness in regard to the addiction or the satisfaction derived from it is always limited. Who knows that better than an alcoholic addicted to a pint of gin for breakfast? To say that he doesn't feel divine when he drinks is absurd. Of course he feels divine. Does that make it a divine addiction? I suppose. How do you define bondage? Does that apparently free him? Is taking another special consciousness in bondage until death do you apart a kind of freedom? How do you define that? It's silly. Limitedness always binds. Obviously, limitation could not occur without fear. Self-sustenance is always, and this is lesson 76 in the Course in Miracles workbook, the denial that you are under no laws but God's. You obviously have established an idea of the value of nutrition, of the value of maintaining an equilibrium in your state of consciousness. You do it, and that is why you are here. If you open up the book right now and read out loud to me lesson 76, you immediately go into a state of denial of it. It's inevitable. You are constituted on the denial of it. If you value it, you will not escape the consequences of it. Wow. Cause and effect. Of course there's no action without subsequent action. Of course there's no thought without subsequent thought. The only way, finally, listen to me, to eliminate cause and effect is what? As we would teach it in the Course in Miracles, to see that cause is effect. There's absolutely in reality no distance between cause and effect. That is why the Father is the Son. You can't have a thought that has not occurred. You may attempt to effectuate it later on. But the whole basis of what I teach you is to shorten your conceptual distance between what you think you do and the results that are forthcoming. I'm shortening your time, brother. You think there's a time between now and when you die? There's not. You have conceived of death. You can only die now. If you do that, you will see you are eternal. If you put it off, you will construct a future based on your false past. It's inevitable. Can I shorten time for you? As Brother Jesus would say, we can shorten time immeasurably, which is the same thing as saying to you, you can come into your now, and only now, and transcend to eternity. Eternity is not a long time, brother. It's no time at all. What's a weird idea? What a weird idea. People say, who wants to be in eternity if it's like this? It has nothing to do with it. You are fulfilled at this moment or you will never be. There's nothing outside of truth. Truth is true and nothing else is true. There are no degrees of truism. Truth is not relative. No wonder you are in pain and fear. No wonder. You think there's justice in limitation. You search for it. You eye for an eye it. You set up quid pro quo. I give you this. You give it back. All based on limitation. There isn't any such thing as that. And you are everything or you are nothing. How many times have I taught this? How many times have I said this? I've been saying this for 10,000 years. You stood on the mount 2,000 years ago and told me this, brother. You said to me, don't resist evil. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness. Blessed are those who are persecuted in my name. Your kingdom is not of this world. Know ye not, ye must be born again. Wow. Again and again and again, and finally what? I come into your sleeping state, into your dead state, and I tell you there's no death, that you are eternal in your own consciousness, period. What I'm making you look at, you can't escape from yourself. I'm causing you, in your own consciousness, to go into a state of acceptance of yourself. You could never come to God by denial of yourself or of your brother, who is you, period. Denial is always hate, acceptance and forgiveness always love. The incredible discovery that you can only give to yourself is the biggest step that you could ever take in so-called conception. But your absolute recognition that you are the creator of this and that all creation finally is the giving of the certainty of your consciousness. If it is not refined, you will project it. If it is true, you will extend it, because an idea in truth never leaves its source. And that's how simple it is. Over and over again we say to you, you are the universe. There's only one state of consciousness. It is you. There's nothing outside of you. This is the highest level at which any attempt at bringing about a transformation can be presented to you. And that's the occurrence that is going on. It is always up to you. You cannot lay or foster the blame or give the responsibility to your own projections, because you have already limited them by the definition of yourself. Group consciousness will never find God. Group consciousness is false by definition. All consciousness is singular. We may get together in groups and attempt through therapy to bring about transformative occurrences. That's an extremely high reach in so-called psychology or transpersonal psychology, but finally each consciousness in his own configuration reaches the inevitable truth of himself, and not through commiseration, through recognition. Everybody hear me. The total in reality is never shared. It is total only in you individually. Wow. What do we teach if it is not subjectivity? Finally, imagine that. That's a very fearful concept for you, brother. It is very difficult. You keep wanting to give honor and value to your own limitation. And you will do it by constructing family. You will do it by constructing self-defensive mechanisms. You will do anything you can to keep from going through the process that will show you that you are in fact eternal in all consciousness. I have come to tell you that it is inevitable and that it will come about in you. And each moment that you make the choice to turn to it, you turn away from the falsity of your own projections. How simple. Full commitment brings immediate result. So does infinite patience. Full commitment and infinite patience are the same thing. Prepare ye the way to the Lord, for I am with you always. I thought you said you went to prepare a way for me. The consciousness of the universe is here, or it is nowhere. The incredible tendency to come here and then carry something different out with you, it is only you. That is why you are coming to know. Wholeness is the state of consciousness. It finally has nothing to do with the coming about of it. The single development now coming into the earth is the always present truth in this limited configuration, that knowledge can be gained by a swift in consciousness or a transformative occurrence. This is very rudely denied sociologically, of course. There would be an implication that somehow someone would be more advanced in his idea and be able to exercise through ideas control over his sociological situations. And in fact, this is what occurs in the world, of course. Everyone finally attempts to exercise control of their sociological situations. It is inevitable that they do that. The notion that there is an involvement of genetics or karma in the response of the apparent limited consciousness or an entity causes the idea of varying degrees of maturation, which affords for all sorts of strange hierarchies, ranging from perhaps the Hindu system of the Brahmin to the untouchable or the king or the commoner, and includes all of man's ideas of himself in limited association with the final truth of his godhood. For a Christ or an advanced so-called consciousness to come among you and teach that you may now undergo a transformative occurrence that will bring about a new consciousness in you, finally must be rigorously denied. The whole basis of your consciousness is your own independence from source. There are many consciousnesses now coming into the New Age thinking, where they are the cause of this. The direct quotes now emanating from all recent spiritual scripture, and as far back as man has been here, indicate that your conception is what is given this any form of reality it may seem to have for you. Of course, that is very true, but what goes hand in hand with that, and here's the difficulty, in one sentence I say to you, you are responsible for this, you. And in the next sentence I say to you, you did not make yourself. Now you are caught. If you carry that a step further, what I said to you, the earth is your construct, but the earth is no more real than you are in its actual communication or creative energy. We teach only come home to source. It is a giant step indeed to get community establishment in this limited phase of consciousness to even acknowledge that truth can be gained through an occurrence, through a transformative process, although it is taught everywhere in the religious community. The scientific community is inevitably faced with the dilemma of genius, as is art, and inevitably denies it, and more particularly denies their own obvious potential, since it is the observation of the art that was brought about through their own configuration. The truth is that if you don't extend the idea of transformation, there's no possibility that you will ever communicate. It is the one single thing that you can say in the illusion. This can be overcome. This can be recognized. We can take your apparent diversity and bring it into singularity. We can show you a very new way of looking at things, and perhaps we will show you that the most obvious occurrence here in the consciousness realization that he has constructed death, and in the limited state in which you have conceived of yourself is, I assure you, that you are going to die. But what a strange thing to do. Contained within you and your ideas, since you have expressed it, is an idea of truth and eternity. Why is it then that everything that you see in limited perception obviously is a state of dying? Cyclical, it keeps being born and maturing and dying. It is in a framework of time and space because you are in a framework of time and space. Is there turmoil and death, anger finally, in the idea of your ultimate and inevitable death? I would think there very well would be. Quite obviously, all of your manifestations of disease, apparent hatred, attempts at communion must be based on the idea of your ultimate death. And that's absurd. It doesn't make any sense. But yet, if I present you with the absolute proposition of eternity, because of the nature of your limited construction, you deny me and actively pursue retention of a limited consciousness that must inevitably lead you to demise or annihilation. How unreasonable of you! What would be reasonable about death? What is reasonable really about pain and limitation? Obviously, the basis of limited consciousness is recognition of a form of selfness. identified as existing in a state of limitedness or lack, with the obvious need to sustain that level of consciousness to survive. If I present you with the proposition that nothing that is not forever is real, it requires your double take. The notion that you have come into, and this is your construct, will lead you directly to truth because it allows you to configurate the absoluteness that nothing is outside of you. Very simply, there is nothing without your conception of it. How paradoxical. The notion of objectivity, or the notion of separation. It seems so absurd that anyone would look at the idea of two things being separate. Obviously, their construction then is based on not knowing, apparently, what the object is that they are viewing. And that's crazy, that's senseless. So they study the limited instead of the wholeness. They philosophize on their own false configuration of their own apartness. Wow. As you go through your regenerative process, you begin to stand aside from this chaos, and this can be perceived as very conflictual. You no longer feel needs to participate in sociological death rituals of relationships which reject, or the intense need to accomplish limited goals. These things lose their meaning to you. But since Earth consciousness is only derived from memory, all of the entities in states of duality around you are constructing you in their own limited parameters of consciousness. If you deviate from that and they are unable to adjust to it, they will attack you or deny you, of course. If you look at it from your own conception, it will be obvious to you that since you are the creator or miscreator of everything about you, the only thing that could ever cause you pain or fail you would be your own idea about it. Obviously, here is going through anger. Obviously, everybody here is going through anger and pain and attack and defense because of their own ideas. If we take the next step, we come to the inevitable conclusion that you are being attacked by your own thoughts. And of course you are. You're only memory. You're a limited memory machine. The idea, the direct necessity for the body in perception is based on the retention of memory, of schism. And it is all in you. It is not outside of you. Every idea that you are having and sorting out is still with you. You have an idea of beauty, but it is always in relationship with ugliness. So you shun or put aside, apparently in your limited state, the ugliness. It does not go away. How do you exorcise ugliness or evilness? The devil, the limited part of you, the configurations of attack and defense. You can never overcome apparent evil by combating it. We stand on the mount and say, resist not evil. Literally, do not defend yourself from your own ideas. The only thing that could ever be limiting or evil is your thought. Your kingdom is not of this world, and you are not from here. All your equations of apparent justice lead nowhere. All your configurations of give and take and have and hold and live and die have no value whatever, except the value that you have given it in your mind. You listen to me. If you give the earth value, it has value. You do not get rid of it by establishing its valuableness and then attempting to give it up, of course. So we teach, be whole and true and real and love and extend. Be defenseless. Mostly we teach forgive. Never mind the equation that you are only forgiving your own thoughts. That will come next. That you can only give to yourself. That you can only finally forgive yourself. That will come next. We finally teach an occurrence of know yourself. That will come to you. There you start with the premise that you are the only living Son of God. How else can you come to know the truth if you don't start with the premise of truth? If no idea is outside of you, who then is true? Who is all consciousness in the universe? There is nothing separate from you. You hold the universe in the palm of your hand. How will the earth be saved then? How will we return to love and beauty and truth? When you change your own mind, and only in that manner. Come, reason with me about the inevitability of your consciousness. Attempt, within your own framework of memory and consciousness, to conceive of death now. See how the veil comes over your head? Attempt to look at darkness. Attempt to see. Attempt to conscientize annihilation. Do you see that the awakening process is the death process? The subtraction of the limited you is all that the transformation really is, the resurrection, the enlightenment. The history of the universe is contained in you. There's no thought of variation in the construct of consciousness that is not contained in you. You are the I Ching. You are the master genetic code. You are all of history. Religiously, you are the way and the light. Scientifically, everything arises from your consciousness. If there is nothing outside of you, all apparent parts must contain the whole, and I assure you they do. The whole could never be the sum of its parts if you are the summer. 1 + 1 could never be 2, for the plus is only you. Wherever 2 or more are gathered in my name, I am there. Of course, how simple. Make the stew then, divine cooks, and when you finish, jump into the pot. What an incredible idea of freedom, and choose, with the realization of the acceptance of the responsibility for the universe, the incredible knowledge that the universe is finally benign, that nothing ever really stands opposed to anything. Nothing is in friction with reality or truth. Wow, you lay down your rusty saber. You stand aside from the fray and you say, I will not participate in this any longer. How easy it is to see historically that the idea of Christhood must be persecuted or be crucified. Of course, the whole basis of the configuration of consciousness in regard to the establishment in limitation is based on the idea of death. If I come along and say, you cannot die, what I'm really saying to you is that if you come with me, the earth will collapse, of course. There's a beautiful quote from Brother Jesus Christ in A Course in Miracles where he says, you really think that you came here and found the earth in duality waiting for you to bring about its transformation. On the contrary, if you are not here in your own consciousness, the earth is not here either. That is why you are defined as the only living Son of God. There are no idle thoughts. Nothing in truth is discrete. What would it be discrete from? To what purpose would it stand aside from unity, or could? No, no. All around you is energy, manifest in duality, broken up again and again and again. You look for reason in it. You look for it in the limited state of your own consciousness to bring about a unity. And that is your sole purpose in consciousness, to escape the chaos that you have created. Wow! To remember that you are the cause and not the effect. Wow! To realize that you are only Adam dreaming and will waken at this moment to the truth of you. And all your yesterdays are gone. You can't construct your tomorrow. In giving up your yesterdays, you take all of your historic incidences and perfect them in the glory of the realization of their inevitable capacity to bring about your awakening. You do not stand in judgment of your karma, of your past experiences. You release your resentments. You forgive. You extend your love and you come home. Is heaven real? You bet your boots it's real. There's another beautiful quote of Brother Jesus where he says that nothing outside of heaven is alive. which means that you are in a deep sleep with your death wish. The construction of death is fearful and hateful and denies truth. Anything that could die could never have been alive. Wow. Therefore, be you grateful for the occurrence in you and be humble before the majesty of the universe. The truth will be made known unto you. You will recognize in your own self the fullness and the wholeness of all consciousness. You will extend from you only the truth of you as you have recognized yourself. Stand aside then. It is impossible for you to do a wrong. How difficult it is for you to accept absolute forgiveness. How strong the notion of cause and effect. How difficult the final concept that cause and effect stand as a single thing with no time between. In our transformation teachings, we are shortening time to bring you into the moment of your unity and of your truth. Is it experiential? It is only experiential. All around you are rays and energies and sounds of creative universe. Your dilemma lies in the notion of potential. From the idea of potential, you create futurizing or time. All consciousness is full-blown at all moments. Everything we could ever be is running full tilt. Wow, 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 wow. And you are it. Don't bind yourself. Be free. Cast your breath upon the water. Is that full endeavor? Does it require purpose? Yes. Full commitment brings immediate results. Of course. You are individually very select. You are indeed chosen. Without you, heaven would be incomplete. We are at the omega point together. Be of good cheer. What does Brother Jesus say in the Course in Miracles? Blasphemy can be defined as depression, anger, and resentment. Wow. You can't blaspheme against God, but you can against yourself, can't you? The truth has nothing to do with this. Only you have to do with this, and in that acknowledgement is indeed your salvation. 1 and 1 are not 2 then. 1 and 1 are 3. And 1 and 1 are 1. What an extraordinary occurrence to see that light, to know that it is really happening to you, that you are in this process, and not someone else, not someone historic, not a guru, not a Jesus. The recognition that you as man become man-God, just you. Wow, teach that, brother. That brings the denial to the service. It is a direct confrontation with the limited self. Is the ending foreseeable? Indeed it is. You have constructed it in your own consciousness and are bringing it about. Thank you. We thank you, brother, for the occurrence of you and your Christhood. Wow. We never could have done it without you. You're indispensable to the truth equation. And your creations await you in joy and harmony and love and truth. Welcome home, welcome home. This is a most difficult thing. I've said this a lot of times, and this transfiguration, that this enlightenment, this transformative occurrence involves all of you. It is not limited to your body-brain, for goodness sake. It involves your ductless glands, if you will, but not in separation from the rest of you. It is totally involved. It would have to be. You cannot bring about a transformation without a bodily change. It can't be done, of course not. The whole basis of the apocalypse or revelation is the movement of the passion within your body. For crying out loud. Is that too esoteric now? Wow. The High Prophet contained in the Edgar Cayce readings in the 1930s, the beautiful book on the comparison, the simile, the metaphor, the allegory of the consciousness of the body in relationship to the ductless glands and the churches in Revelation. Holy mackerel, you're all history. That occurrence can bring about some very strange aberrations within your own state of configuration. of course, and will. Finally, it requires acceptance of all of you. Everything that happens to you now is in direct correlation with your own transformative occurrence. It would have to be. Of course, it is going on in you. Yes, indeed it is. Wow. All disease is a denial of spiritual energy or an inevitability to create in truth. Of course, if disease is real, there is no truth. You cannot construct disease or pain or sorrow outside of you and then repair it. It's a strange notion. The construction of an idol, a limited God, a caprice God. Wow. All power is given unto you in heaven and earth. Greater things will you do than I have done. Where is Armageddon then? Where is this incredible deliverance? Only in you. Yes, very lovely. Thank you. I want you to hear this. Finally, what is occurring in full endeavor? And this is A Course in Miracles. And this is a course in reasoning to the truth of mastership or Christhood or avatarship. This is what we teach. The Master John, Brother Franklin, incredible awakening consciousnesses, teaches the Eastern tradition with a lot of Western vernacular. The idea of his Christhood. He is awakened. He is the only living Son of God, of course. We are just going to take that a step further, and he is much aware of it, and present you with the inevitable conclusion, since there's only one final state of consciousness in truth, that you must be that state. Now you can teach it out of A Course in Miracles. If you will look at Brother John from the Course in Miracles or the Jesus idea, and forgive him totally, which is really all that we teach, you will recognize that indeed he is the only living Son of God. Who do you think is sitting around me here? Of course. The fault always lies in the judgment of someone, somehow being what? Further advanced or further behind you in his spiritual acumen. But remember, if you judge him at all, you judge him falsely. And there is the problem. Inevitably, in coming to the truth, we create stages or hierarchies of consciousness, and this is, in the sense of apparent reality, very true. But the second that a notion arises in you that you are in the fourth stage and identify yourself as working on the fifth or the sixth or seventh, that's absurd. The moment that you acknowledge the possibility of a seventh stage, you are literally entered that stage and denied it. You could not configure the notion of God without being true. You are in constant state, obviously, of schism. There's a false notion in the association with time, and some particular identities or configurations are born with more capacities than others. That will keep you here a long time, brother. I'm sorry, but it is not true. You immediately, through recognizing another apparent Christhood, have denied your own. Unless you will recognize it fully, in which case you will see that you are only him. Question. Are you saying the Jews aren't the chosen people? We say that the definition of Jew is chosen historically, and that all who have come into a configuration of apparent duality are chosen, and that have been chosen into truth establishment. It is inevitable. It doesn't have anything to do, obviously, with race or establishment on earth. But there's a big 1 chromosome difference between a chimpanzee and a human being. You bet your boots. That is the chosen element. If 99% genetically, chromosomally, of an ape is the same as a man, obviously it is in the other 1% that is the chosen part. But the dilemma is this. The chimpanzee is perfect in chimpanzee-ness. I've said this many times. You obviously are the only nutty one. You are the one that is in denial of yourself. The only thing in the universe that doesn't know what it is a limited state of consciousness that has already acknowledged its wholeness. Wow, strange notion. It's a strange idea. You could be more than one thing. Never mind what it is. The truth of you is always the truth of you, not in variation, but in singularity. Wow, I can't teach that. Well, the universe is a sense of consciousness. It's a beingness. Obviously, there's no necessity for truth to identify itself. That's silly, and it doesn't. Thank you. More later.